to another round. This is going to be the first episode of a hopefully once monthly live stream. And we got everyone in here. We got Scott from My Bourbon Journey. We got Bobby from Adventures in Whiskey. Jason from The Mash and Drum. John from Blind Whiskey Reviews. And Scott from Scotch Test Dummies. So I think this is actually the first time we've had something like this that, everyone's kind of, all the WhiskeyTube people have gotten together. So we're excited.
Feels like a Hollywood Squares to me where, everybody's lined up in their little boxes.
Yeah, we need to get Jason to figure out how to put us in our own little squares. I'm sure he can figure it out somehow or another.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
So if you guys want to start, obviously my name is Kyle. I'm from Bourbon Blind. You guys made it to the channel, so you probably figured that out by now. But do you guys want to go through and plug each of your channels and let everyone know where they can find you at? Start with you, Scott. Scotch Says Dummy, Scott.
All right. Yeah, I didn't know. You got Scott, Dummy Scott or Journey Scott. So, Scott, half of the Scotch Test Dummies. Bart isn't here tonight. Some months we hope to do this once a month. So some months you may have both of us. Some months you may just have me. Some you may have Bart. So
awesome. Glad to have you.
Yeah. Thanks for the invite.
Journey Scott.
All right, so I'll go. Yeah, so Kyle, thanks for inviting me in. I'm really looking forward to this. This will be a lot of fun being able to kind of talk some whiskey and things along those lines with you guys. But anyway, for anybody who doesn't know, I run the My Bourbon Journey whiskey review channel. Typical reviews, just like everybody else for the most part, bourbons, ryes, things along those lines. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Appreciate that. John, what about you, buddy?
Hey, everybody. I'm John. My channel is Blind Whiskey Reviews, the original blind review channel. And I do all blind reviews on my channel of different whiskeys. So, yeah.
Hey, there's no more subscribers. Come on now. Come on.
Hey.
I got to claim the title now. I got to claim it.
I knew something was going to happen with that tonight.
Everyone's going, oh, crap. They're like
we haven't even made it through the intros yet, and they started.
I know. Wait till I get a couple of drinks in me.
That's when the real fun starts. I think there was some talk about a pants-off dance-off or something. I'm not sure.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Take it, Jason.
Jason C. from the Mash and Drum. Same thing. Do a lot of different types of reviews. A lot of blind tastings. I do about 2 reviews a week. Including a live stream on Wednesday nights at 9.
And Bobby?
Hey, guys. I'm Bobby Childs from Adventures in Whiskey. You know me. I've got a blog, Adventures in Whiskey, duh. And recently started a YouTube channel. So go ahead and check me out if you want. Or not. I don't care.
Your wife isn't named Julia by any chance, is she?
It's our little secret.
Yeah.
So what's everyone sipping on tonight? I'll start. I got some. I went for the top shelf. Jim Beam's Devil Cut.
Wow.
Brought out the good stuff.
Yeah. Nothing but the best for you guys, man. Nothing but the best.
All right, I'll go. One of my kind of favorites is the Old Ezra, the barrel strength. That's a favorite of mine, especially for $40. So
That's
nice. I'll go next. I've got the Elijah Craig. This is the bottle. I brought this thing out a couple times on my channel, but this is the barrel proof, and it's the first whiskey I ever reviewed on my channel. So I figured this was a special occasion, the inaugural episode of another round. So I wanted to break that out, something special. I'm savoring the last few drops of it because it's not going to last much longer.
I was saving mine for the end.
that's a good one.
It is. Great minds think alike.
I am sipping on. I am double fisting tonight, guys. I got the Old Ezra 7 Russell's Reserve single barrel. Trying to kill this bottle. As you can see, it's getting low. So I'm gonna kill this bottle for you guys tonight.
Well, good luck.
I started with a nice palate warmer upper, Heaven Hill 6-year bottled in bond, and I've got a couple. I've got that Ezra barrel strength too, so I'll go up from here and as the show progresses.
I got a few things up here. Starting off with the New Orleans Bourbon Festival barrel pick of Jack Daniels that Tracy Napolitano, the founder of the festival, and I went to the distillery back in November and Good stuff. Really, really good stuff.
I tried that when I was just there in New Orleans. It was really good.
You liked it?
Yeah, I tried all the picks that they had at Martin's there from the Bourbon Festival, and they were all really good.
Jeff had nothing but good things to say about you.
Well, that's nice. He's a great guy. If you guys ever get a chance and you're in New Orleans, go check out Martin's. It's a good store, good guys there.
So since we're kind of talking about what we're drinking, what would you guys say is the biggest surprise that you've had recently with a bourbon or whiskey or whatever in general?
A good surprise or a bad surprise?
Good surprise. Let's do good.
Well, first, you guys want to do a quick cheers for everyone for the first round?
Yeah.
Cheers. Cheers,
Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So I will say for me, one of my biggest surprises, I was kind of looking forward to it originally, but the Knob Creek twice barreled rye, this is my second one of these so far. I freaking love this thing.
Yeah, that's like a peppermint patty in a glass. I love that stuff.
Kyle, that was actually my choice for biggest surprise, because the what was it, the Jim Beam double barrel or double oaked or whatever from a couple years ago? It was okay. So I had some low expectations for this new one, and it blew me away. It was fantastic.
What about you, John?
I'll say, actually, this will harken back to New Orleans, but my probably biggest surprise I've had of late was the Peerless single barrel pick that they had, I think, for the Bourbon Festival. Now, the Peerless rye is good. I don't think it's anywhere near worth what they charge for it, but this pick that they had for the festival was like a butterscotch bomb and a rye whiskey. It was crazy. I mean, it was just super intense, sweet butterscotch, and I was super impressed with it. It was really, really good and a far cry from what their like regular release of the whiskey is.
Awesome.
Which I have in my hand right here.
Oh, snap.
Oh, man.
I think my surprise so far, and I reviewed this late last year, but I love the stuff. It's the Sagamore Spirit Cask Strength Rye Whiskey. This stuff is absolutely, it's a beautiful rye. It's flavorful. It's got amazing fruit notes to it that I normally don't find in a rye, especially this intense. Like, I'm talking like blueberries and just some crazy flavors on the nose, and the palate's amazing. It's a good proof. I love it. Really.
Does that have any kind of age statement at all on it that you know of?
Trying to think back to when I reviewed it, how old they said it was. It's not. It's an NAS, but
Yeah, I think that's like in the 3 to 4 year range, and I think that's sourced MGP, I believe.
Yeah, but yeah, they are distilling their own stuff, but I believe like a lot of distillers they were but this is their own proprietary mash bill though. This isn't I don't believe it's a already MGP mash bill that's in their library. I think this one is they made it themselves. So
yeah, so mine too was a Sagamore, but mine was their port finish one. I was really surprised as to the kind of the overall like kind of depth that it really had. I mean, it does have a big kind of port influence, but I think you can really tell just the backbone of the rye whiskey itself was already kind of starting out with a good product, and then just introducing that to those port barrels. It was a big winner for me. So I really enjoyed that one.
What about you, Dummy Scott?
You know, we just got around to reviewing it a couple weeks ago. Been around for a while. Our first one, E.H. Taylor single barrel. And I know, there's some variances. You can get some good ones, some bad ones.
Yep.
The one that we have and reviewed is it's an outstanding one. That one and then the old Ezra 7-year barrel strength. Our review of it's coming out tomorrow. So both of those, we went to Iron Root. We've been preaching Iron Root down in Texas for a while. That stuff is still, if you guys get a chance and can try it, they're doing wonderful, amazing stuff down there in a short period of time because of the Texas heat. So
I had to sample that Harbinger, and it was absolutely amazing. It was good stuff.
Yeah, it's like 29 months. It's like 2 years and 5 months old.
Yeah. I would agree. I thought that was really fantastic, and I've started to kind of pick up a little bit of that kind of Texas influence. When you taste that Texas whiskey, you kind of are starting to understand like what it is that it really kind of does to the whiskey down there. And I enjoy it as well. I really like what Iron Root is doing too.
Well, you know, and we'd had several Texas whiskeys from Balcones. We'd had Del Bach from Arizona. You kind of get this sagebrush type note or hints of it in there. And I'd wondered, or I'd thought probably maybe it's just some of the corn that they're using, or maybe it's the rye or some barley. And what it is, that is from the heat. It's bringing out extracts from the wood that you don't get in other places.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Scott. I was looking into it because I all these different Texas whiskeys I was testing and sampling. I got that same funk from it. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And that's exactly doing some research, what it was. It's these specific extracts, the lanolin, it gets past that because of those deep wood characters, and it's just extracting stuff from the wood that you don't get when you have those intense seasonal changes. Amazing.
Yeah.
I will say, I think there's some of these Texas distilleries, though, they're kind of riding this Texas ages quicker kind of thing. And it doesn't necessarily do them a good service because a lot of it still tastes like young whiskey, at least some of them anyways.
Yeah, some of them do. Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, one thing I've noticed, like with the Texas stuff, I think in general, to me, it drinks like a little hotter. I don't know if that's just in my head or what. But also, like John says, like, it ages faster, quote unquote, but at the same time, like it seems like you get more like the wood flavors and stuff from it, but also that young whiskey flavor at the same time, at least from the couple that I've had. So I don't know if that's like across the board just from the heat or what, but
yeah, you just seem to get that like kind of oaky sweetness that it has. It's hard to kind of describe that, but it is. I mean, it really does kind of have its own flavor profile, and it's very interesting, but I enjoy it. So
yeah, I think there's a handful of Texas distillers that are doing it, right, instead of just pushing something out that's been only aged a few months and just getting it in a bottle. So, and I think Iron Root and Balcones are just a couple of those.
Yeah.
So what do you guys say? I'm going to save mine for the end because I'm going to get crucified. But what was the biggest letdown? Same kind of thing, like in the last few months, 6 months, whatever the case may be, that you like something you were just really looking forward to, and then it just didn't live up to it.
Oh boy,
Johnny Walker White Label. I mean the White Walker. Not a bourbon, but that one immediately came to mind. Were we talking just whiskey, or were we on a bourbon?
Oh, anything. So was that very different than the regular Johnny Walker Black Label?
Oh yes, yeah.
And not in a good way, I take it.
I would put it actually. So the red label is Johnny Walker entry level. I actually did them side by side, and I like the red label better. No, Bobby's shaking his head. No.
So yeah, the White Walker is not one of those complex. Let me sit down and dissect kind of whiskeys. It really is meant to, like, as they say, just chill it and enjoy it when you're watching some Game of Thrones, which I just finished catching up again. I'd still prefer the White Label over the red label. I can't stand the red label at all. No,
I still have a bottle. I got a bottle of a red label up here, and I gave my White Walker to Bart. He took it. He was like, "I'll take it." I'm like, "Here you go."
Imagine that.
Bart will take it.
I guess I'll go next. I would say my biggest disappointment that I've tried in the last couple months, and it wasn't a bad whiskey, but it was disappointing because of the hype around it, would be the Weller CYBP. I got the chance to try it probably, like, I don't know, 6-8 weeks ago. And it's decent whiskey if you purchased it for retail. I think it's overpriced at $40 if you ask me. But for a whiskey I've seen in person on the shelves for $800, it's preposterous. That, for me, 12 years better, antiques better. So, and both of those bottles I've been able to pick up in recent times for still in the mid to high $20 range. So I'm out on Weller CYBP. The hype is
for me, like, that had a really funky aftertaste. Like, I don't even know how to describe it. It just, like, it wasn't good on the aftertaste to me.
No,
I'm with you.
And while we're on the topic, I want to know What whiskey drinkers went on Buffalo Trace's website and said for anything they could pick out of ages and proofs from the Weller line, said, I want an 8-year 90 proof whiskey. In what world does no one say, I want a 12-year 107 proof whiskey at a minimum? I call BS on that.
Yeah.
Well, I think so too, because they didn't do that survey. They didn't do that questionnaire 9 years ago.
And the other thing with that is they're like, oh, look, we just happen to have all this extra weeded bourbon laying around. Let's go ahead and make another line out of it. Like,
yeah, that's exactly what I think they did. Because just like Scott's point, I'm like, how are they're not aging this. They just did this whole thing recently. So you're telling me they aged this 9 years that fast? Would they hyper age it? What are they doing? It's obviously laying around.
I mean, it's not like they have a hard time selling Weller. I mean, they could have bottled it as 107 or 12-year. Hell, even the special reserve in it would have sold off the shelf. I mean,
that was the CYPV was one of the most alcohol forward from start to finish Wellers I've ever had.
Now, I will say, I was on a press trip at Buffalo Trace last April, and one of the whiskeys they poured was a barrel proof version of that before they proofed it down to whatever the bottling proof or the bottling proof was. It was fantastic. I didn't get to try the final product, but at proof, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw a bottle of it here, so I haven't got to try it. But I know it can't be worth $800 that you see it selling for. No,
not at all, not one bit.
Yeah.
All right, so I guess I'll go next. The biggest letdown for me was the Macallan Classic Cut. It was a high proof Macallan I picked up for $100. I said in my review on my blog and here on YouTube recently that I think Macallan works best as it ages a little bit better or a little bit more. And this one just really tasted young. It had that really young, vibrant malt, and not too much complexity. And that was $100 a bottle. But for $30 a bottle, Naked Grouse that I picked up a couple weeks ago beats it 100%. For me.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, I guess I'll go. I'll say so about a week or two ago, I was at a whiskey event that they kind of host in my area, and I was able to try the new Smooth Ambler, the 13-year single barrels, and I guess I was disappointed because I was able to try prior to that a little bit of the single barrel from when they were sourcing through MGP. And I mean, it's drastically changed now that they're, sourcing from Tennessee. I mean, I think the consensus is that it is coming from Dickel. I guess it just didn't seem to hold up to what they used to kind of produce. So for me, it was a little bit disappointing from the standpoint of you wanted it to kind of still be very similar to the juice that it was before. And it just really no longer was that. It was good, but now the price point on it, like around here, is anywhere from like $60 to $80. And I don't know, for what it was, I think there were a lot of other better whiskeys that you could get for, half of that. So
I just don't know what they were thinking on switching to a different source, because MGP is such a distinct, flavor profile, and people were in love with that. A lot of people like MGP sourced whiskeys, and to switch to a whole nother distillery to pull your whiskey from is just kind of weird on the same line. I don't know why they would decide to do that.
When you grow, you have to find, it's really hard to keep the quality the same. So you have to find new sources. And the negative part of it is, like you guys just said, it starts to change what you loved about the whiskey beforehand.
Yeah.
I mean, if they still wanted to source whiskey and put it out under their name, I think they should have just rebranded it somehow. I mean, that way you know what you're getting into. You're not fooled into thinking you're getting a 13-year MGP product when really you're getting, Dickel or whatever it happens to be.
Well, and what I thought was, I mean, when I started thinking, rather than like introduce or reintroduce the single barrel line, why don't they, if possible, I'm just speculating, but if they were able to go back to MGP and secure more of the 7, 8, 9 year whiskey, why wouldn't they do that? It seemed like maybe they really wanted to lock back into that single barrel, product. I don't know if that's the case or not, but that was my thought, was maybe why don't you just go back to getting some little younger whiskey? Because that 7-year that they produced, I thought it was really, really good whiskey. So that's why I was a little disappointed in it. But
So is that everyone? Everyone go?
I got to pick mine out. I think mine for me was the Rhetoric 25 release.
Really?
Yeah. I like the 24 way better. The 25, I don't know. I think the proof point on it killed it. I feel like there was a lot of flavor in there that you could have been able to taste. I was pissed that I paid like $200 for that, and it just, the proof point wasn't there. The mouthfeel wasn't there. I was not a fan of it. So that was probably my biggest disappointment.
Have you let it sit since it's been open? Or have you gone back to retry it or anything?
I tried it one more time. It got a little better, but I think the proof point on it really just kind of killed it for me. And it just, I guess, maybe you're coming off, like you guys, I sip a lot of high proof stuff a lot. So just, I think it has some really nice sweet oak flavors, but the finish on it just, for 25-year bourbon, that thing should just keep going and going, and it's too quick.
What did they proof it down to?
It is down to,
I think
94, I think.
I have it here. It's 91.
oh yeah,
All that beautiful flavor, they just kind of stripped it out. So that really kind of ticked me off. So,
What was the proof on the 24 year?
the 24 was actually a little bit lower, but it tasted better to me.
So are you guys ready to crucify me? For my biggest disappointment this year?
I'm trying to think what the hell you said was disappointing.
it could be that. It could be that Woodford. What was it? Oatmeal or something that they made whiskey out of.
That was my other disappointment. I'm gonna think that I'm gonna guess it's the Booker's 30th, Kyle.
No, that one was really good. I enjoyed that.
Okay, good.
I've never said this.
You if you talk about the 30th, he just did a good review on that, by the way.
We're gonna crucify you. What are you talking about? Like 2018 Stagg or something? What are you doing?
So there's actually two of them. Okay, I couldn't decide between the two of them. One of them that I had high hopes for and I couldn't stand it was the Angel's Envy Rye. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, I would agree with that.
It's just like way overly sweet to me.
Yeah.
It's not a traditional rye by any stretch.
No. So the one that
I called it.
Yep.
Wow.
So now let me preface this by saying I don't dislike it. I don't dislike it at all. It's good. I enjoy it, but compared to last year's, not one bit. I think last year's was way better. This one just had more heat, less flavor, less of that cherry flavor. I was really looking forward to it, and it's one of those
I'm glad to send you my address if you want to ship it to me, because I'm gonna take it off your hands.
Well, Kyle, you send it to me. I'll drain pour it for you. Okay.
Kyle,
you're such a good friend.
I'm there with you, Kyle. It was a disappointing release. Past years have been better. Elijah Craig Barrel Proof is a better whiskey than this one is.
I agree. Like I said, it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not like last year's.
Now, is Elijah Craig Barrel Proof a better whiskey because it's a little cheaper and more readily available?
Oh no, the flavor, the palate, everything about it. It's much richer. It's darker. It's deeper. It's all the good bourbon amplified notes that you expect in the Stagg. And this year's Stagg was just flat. It was weak. Outside of even the ABV 62.45%.
Yeah,
it's one of the lower proofed ones, and it's just it's a weak whiskey.
It's the lowest proof they ever released.
To me, the disappointment in this year's antique collection was Sazerac 18. It just didn't have the complexity and depth of the past few years.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. With the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, I don't know if there's another bourbon or whiskey out there that just straight packs as much flavor. into it as that Elijah Craig barrel proof.
I agree. I mean, I think that you could, if you blinded a lot of people and put that head to head with a lot of the special releases every year, I think it would stand up incredibly well against all of those bourbons. So I mean, it really, for like my area, I can get it for about $60. So it's pretty good, and it's a fantastic whiskey, especially for at that price point. So
yeah, I did a blind taste test live on my show, on one of my live streams. I put a George T. Stagg, actually the one from 2017. I put it up against the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof, the C918 from last year. And I mean, it was close, but Elijah Craig Barrel Proof came out on top, and it's about $600 cheaper. So I was happy.
And secondary, it's a whole lot cheaper.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
You can go get Elijah Craig barrel proof secondary.
I mean, obviously, I do a lot of blind tastings at the house. Oh, I was saying, obviously, I try to do a lot of blind tastings with my friends at the house, and Elijah Craig barrel proof wins a lot. I've even had Stagg Jr. win a lot. You know, like a lot of these more flavor forward and less expensive and available whiskeys win. So it kind of begs the question is, why do people seek out some of these whiskeys? And not to say that they're bad, but they're at least on par with something that's much cheaper and more available, you know?
So with that, I mean, let's talk about, like, you know, is some of these bourbons that people covet essentially worth the hype that is behind them? You know what I mean? Like, how many times has there been an epic release and everyone rushes to it and it's so amazing and everything else, and then, you know, a few weeks in, everyone gets their hands on it, it really wasn't that good? Or
I find it's more the whiskeys. It's kind of like a lot of different things when you go in with not an expectation, and you sometimes find out how amazing it is. I find that to happen more often than me going in that this is going to be amazing and it doesn't deliver, unfortunately.
Yeah. Look, and I think that's a really big point. Like, I think when you kind of set up two different things. So like, I try to think of, if I get something for a secondary price versus a retail price, subconsciously in your mind, are you thinking now that I bought it for $100, is it really good? But for $400, I really don't like it. So, I mean, it doesn't change the profile of it. It's just your interpretation of what's good to you in your mind, you know, based on the value that you think something like that is worth. So that's what I struggle with, because, you know, like we were saying before, the CYPB, you know, for whatever retail, it's $35, $40 or whatever it may be. But for $400, nobody wants to touch that stuff. So that's where I always kind of struggle with things in terms of value, is secondary versus retail. And, you know, I don't know, that's kind of, you know, my issue. But
there's also the rarity of it too. If something's rare, you expect it to be, to elevate its flavors and its delivery and everything else. And when you try it, it might be just okay, especially if you're, you know, going from store to store or state to state for some people and trying to hunt one of these things down. They get one, and all this work you put into it, you open it, it'll never live up to the hype.
Even Russell's Reserve. Russell's Reserve single barrel, it's a $50 bottle. I would take that over half the probably bottles over $100 that I have, just because it's consistently delicious, balanced, amazing, and I would take that over any other day. So,
well, I mean, with that, like, how much of it is like the hype kills the bottle for you? You know what I mean? They're like, you hear everyone saying, "Oh, this is the best stuff ever," blah blah blah, and
I don't believe.
Finally, get your hands on, like, you're like, yes, and you're expecting this amazing orgasm in your mouth, and it's
and we're off the rails.
But you know,
I think that's one of the reasons why blind tasting is so important, and why I started doing what I do, and you followed thereafter, was that
oh, that was below the belt, man.
Oh man,
gloves up.
No, but I think that's why blind tastings are important, man, because it lets you put stuff next to each other and see how it really adds up in terms of the flavor of the whiskey, the taste of the whiskey, and do they add up on the things that matter? Because does price and the bottle and all that matter? No, it matters how good does that whiskey taste. So I think that's why blind tastings are really important.
You know, I think that's why I took your channel and I just kind of upped it a bit, and then we gave it a price tag instead of a number. Because, but no, I mean, like the behind Scott Journey, the Kentucky Owl Rye. You know what I mean? The first batch flew off the shelves at what, 110, 120 bucks.
Yeah.
And then they came out with batch 2. And I've been to some stores recently that still have some on the shelf for, you know, less than 200 bucks a bottle. You know what I mean?
They lowered the proof and upped the price by what, 60, 80 bucks? Which was
Right. And to me, like, that's what killed. Like, they said they were coming out with another batch, and I was like, yes, I was excited for it. And then, you know, they almost doubled the price, and I was like, I'm out, guys. You know what I mean? Like, you had a good product at a decent price point. I mean, yeah, it was expensive, but it was attainable.
I mean, look at the hype going crazy for the relatively limited Angel's Envy Oloroso Sherry Cask finish. That
Oh God.
That's the thing was on. I think I saw it through every news, but any whiskey news outlet I looked at, it was a huge announcement. People went crazy for it. I've already seen it on the secondary. People are trading it or trying to trade it for bottles of Pappy and.
That's because this is the first time a whiskey's never been finished in a sherry cask.
Yeah, I'm like, are you kidding me? Go have a Macallan 12 year. You want a sherry cask that's good quality? I mean, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Actually, James E. Pepper, 1776, Oloroso sherry finished.
Wow.
Yeah, what, like 30 bucks?
Yeah, 30, 35, I think. Sorry, PX, Pedro Jimenez finished.
Oh.
And it's weird. It's good weird though. It is. I mean, it takes a little getting used to, but it's different.
That's Scott's official review, everybody.
That's
weird.
it.
It's weird.
Now that's a quick hitter right there for you.
You heard it live here first.
Now, we'll tell you, as far as Angel's Envy goes, I've only had a sample. One of it was the rum cask finished one.
The rye.
Yeah.
And it was, I didn't care for it. It was way too sweet, way too much rum influence on it. But that's my only experience with Angel.
I gotta tell you, when people come up to me and ask me, hey, what's a good starter bourbon? I actually usually say, try Angel's Envy because it's really sweet. It might be a little bit pleasing. And then after they're about 4 or 5 sips into it, they're done with it and want something else because it's too sweet.
Yeah, I could definitely do it. Like for me, that the rye, I have the rum barrel finish one, and it's like toasted marshmallows. And at first you're like, "Ooh, this is really good," and like the first, second sip, and then like I really don't like overly sweet stuff to begin with. And after that, especially in bourbon, and after that first sip or two, like I'm done. It's like you've been sucking on a piece of candy, like a sugar ball for the last 10 minutes or whatever.
But it makes for a great dessert whiskey.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it is one of those brands that really lends itself to people wanting a sweeter profile, like really being able to be introduced to, a solid whiskey. The price points again can be a little bit of an issue, of course, but I mean we're in the day and age now where if you mention or put special release, 500 people are in line, the night before so they can get it. Don't even know what it is. And really, to be honest, I'm surprised more people more companies don't just do special releases all the time because everyone's going to show up and they'll all buy it. There's that many crazy people out there. So
yeah, which I think it's an interesting thing now. If say I use this as an example when I reviewed it, I absolutely loved it. The Old Forester rye when it came out. I really enjoy that Old Forester had decided to not just make that a special release, but to extend their line of already great whiskeys because, I feel like distilleries are quick to pull the trigger on a special release because they know people are going to be hungry for it. It's going to fly off the shelves and it's going to be inaccessible to the common whiskey drinker. But, you get a company like Old Forester, maybe some of these other ones jump in and they just extend their line and make it an accessible, cheap whiskey, good distribution. Everybody wins. And I realize not every whiskey can be like that. I just wish more distilleries kind of thought along that path a little bit more.
So one thing, like I really like Bell Mead bourbon. I don't know if a lot of you guys can get that where you are. Their single barrels are beyond fantastic. They're up there with like the OKIs and the Smooth Amblers and that kind of stuff. Of course, I mean, they're all MGP 8, 10, 12-year juice, but so they had a limited release recently that I was able to go to, and there was a lot of people in line really early. In the past, there hasn't been, and I was still able to get one, and that was.
Oh, that's coveted.
It is. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, I've seen people trying to trade that for bottles of Pappy. Is it that good?
It's like $300 or $400 for a bottle on the secondary, easy.
Yep.
I think I've seen some of them go for like upwards of $6.
That was the honey barrel.
Yeah. So I was thinking about opening it. You guys think I should?
Yep.
Yeah.
Therefore,
I knew you guys are good friends.
Yeah, we want the review.
Trade it.
Yeah. For my,
you know how many Elijah Craig barrel proofs I could get for this?
Probably can.
I wouldn't have opened it, but whatever.
Hey, you know, why not, right?
Two things real quick. I got a Bell Mead. It's a 9-year single barrel, which it's outstanding. And it was for Greenbrier or the Liquor Barn. It was a single barrel that they had. Very good. Now back to Old Forester though that you brought up. What's with the 1910? I mean, it showed up here, and before I could even get a bottle, everybody already knew about it. It was gone before I'd even heard about it.
they must know something I don't, because I didn't care for it.
Yeah, they had put out.
Neither.
I don't know who did it or who said it. I don't know if this came from Old Forester, but there was an announcement that there was a shortage, or 1910 sold out so fast that it's going away. So everybody, after it was sitting on the shelves for a couple of weeks and people were buying it and trying it, all of a sudden people bought it up like, kind of like when we were talking about earlier, the Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond. When we first found out it was going away, everybody just stormed the stores and bought cases of it. I heard the same thing happen with the 1910. Not sure if that rumor was true or not. I still see it on shelves in some places, but yeah, it's gone. It's crazy.
Scott, if you need some, let me know. There's some literally all over here in Middle Tennessee.
Yeah,
really.
Same here.
I see John.
If you want, and I'm probably not gonna drink it. So
I like it. I enjoy
it can't be that bad.
I'll tell you what. One thing I thought was funny with the 1910 is I've had the opportunity to try some different bottles of it from different friends and people out there, and it varies widely, bottle to bottle, or at least batch to batch, or however they did it. I tasted it one time and it tastes terrible. I mean, it doesn't have a lot of flavor, or it's got some weird smoky notes, or it kind of tastes like barbecue. And I tasted it again. It's got some more like kind of dusty notes, and it tastes more like the Old Forester I would expect. So it varies widely, and I've definitely had more pours that I didn't enjoy than I had one that I thought was really good. So I just found that kind of strange.
In a blind, I found it very flat.
Extremely
flat.
I thought it was very flat as well. It just didn't offer enough punch of flavor. I mean, you got a lot of wood characteristic, obviously. I mean, they charred those barrels to the point like almost a full minute to really get all those. I mean, if you look at it, it looks like root beer. It's super dark.
Yeah.
But I will say, if you do have a bottle of it, anyone, make yourself a 1915. Go get a little bit of 1810 and blend that. It's pretty good pour.
I don't know what you guys have for price point on it, but for me, the 1910 is about $6-7 more than the 1920, and the 1920 is a no-brainer. So I would never.
No way.
I mean, having tasted it now, I mean, I don't even know if I would have bought the bottle that I do have.
Yeah, that 1920, again, that's probably one of those bourbons that you can mix in. If you did a blind and you mixed it in with a lot of things, I mean, that's another really fantastic bourbon. So
Stipper's Social Club sent a super chat. So
hey, thanks.
Appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Cheers.
Well, we'll go ahead and say that I opened up the Bell Mead Honey for him. How's that?
There you go. Did you
for you, Jeremy?
Oh, you're nosing it right now?
Yeah, I already got a little sip in. It's
Everyone's waiting with bated breath.
Yeah.
So since I have another bottle that's unopened, it's definitely worth $1,000 a bottle. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that out there right now. So if you guys see that, like the fireball something or other, that wasn't me. No, it is really good. It almost has like a spiciness to it. You know how like a raw honey could have that little bit of tang to it. You know what I mean?
Like some clove or something sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like Tennessee honey or anything like that at all. It's definitely a bourbon that was finished in a honey barrel, not bourbon that had honey added to it. So that's a good thing. But it is really good. It has some of that tang. There's some of the honey is in the finish for sure. I'm going to let it sit here and open up a little bit, but
that honey influence is in there.
I would like to point out real quick too. There's 50 people watching. I'm not sure where our numbers have been, but not bad for first inaugural stream.
Cheers to everyone watching.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
Yeah, thanks for everybody watching. It's awesome. 50 people, first roundtable.
And that's 42 minutes in. So I mean, they must be either bored or lonely or desperate or like the content. I guess the last option is they like the content.
Yeah,
we'll take it. Any of the above, we'll take it.
Hey, I was going to ask any of you guys. So the other day I got sent something, and this was kind of interesting to me. So this is, I talked to Jason a little bit about it. I don't know if anybody can see that or not, but do you see something moving in that bottle?
Oh, it's got a stave.
So it's got a toasted spiral in it. And it's from a company by the name of Oak and Eden. And prior to this, I mean, I know a lot of us have tried like different unique things. But when I saw it as like their actual like secondary finishing process, I thought like, my gosh, how come nobody else has kind of jumped on this? And I guess really without giving a bunch of information away, I thought it was a really kind of interesting and unique process. And just kind of, I did a review and I haven't released it yet, but they sent me the sample of it done prior to it being finished, and it was absolutely night and day. So I was kind of wondering, just from a trend standpoint, if that's something that will maybe start to kind of catch on with things a little bit. I thought it really changed it in a really positive way. So
I tried that rye whiskey of theirs, and I didn't enjoy it very much. I mean, I thought it still tasted young, and maybe the stave. I didn't get the opportunity to taste it prior to them putting the stave in there or the spiral, but I didn't enjoy it very much. I didn't think it was fantastic. And they say, I find it hard to believe, but they say that that spiral is inert within like 6 weeks, like it doesn't affect the whiskey after a period of weeks. But I find that kind of hard to believe. But hey, who knows?
Well, I was watching. There's another. Well, Matt is his name. He's in Dallas area. Him and a couple friends started up a channel as well lately on YouTube called Whiskey Crusaders, and they just had. I was watching it because they had the owner on, and they looked at several of his bottles. And as far as that goes, they said that they had looked at the whiskey at that 6 week or the 2 month time frame, and then they looked at one like 2 years later, and there wasn't any difference. So that's where they were getting that time frame from as well. But what was interesting, he openly admitted they're sourcing their whiskey as well. So they're sourcing their whiskey, and then they're adding these staves to it to kind of add their touch and their experimentation and trying different things with it.
So they're finishing it without finishing it, basically.
Correct. Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting. I mean, being able to do the side by side of the and basically it was, from what they told me, 2-year sourced MGP, and they sent me the sample of just the straight 2-year, and then the sample or the bottle with the spiral in it, and it was night and day. To me, it changed quite a bit. It mellowed it out, gave it a nice kind of marshmallow, effect to it. So I was more interested in kind of the dynamic part of it than I was, really anything. Just if that was going to be something that became a little bit of a trend, so to speak. So.
Well, DJ Beacon has a good point, Scott, that you're going to have to, it's like the worm in mezcal. You're going to have to eat that spiral when you get down to the bottom of the.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, what other trends do you guys see going on in the bourbon world? I mean, we could even go as far as to say, like, what's the mass market going towards versus what is the enthusiast going towards?
I think cask strength. People have got to venture into cask strength. They got to get off of the 45%. I think American whiskeys or single malts are going to start picking up. You'll see more experimentation there. And then naturally, that's going to lead into some of the wine barrel finishing, like we were talking about, your Oloroso, PX finish stuff. I mean, there's some good American whiskeys that are up and coming. So,
and over across the pond, Glenmorangie. I mean, because everyone uses pretty much distiller's yeast. Glenmorangie's new one is I forget the name of it. They're using their own yeast strain. They wild yeast.
Alta.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
So I see that sort of maybe picking up in the Scotch world.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think the finishing aspect on things, and one that comes to my mind right away is what Barrel Bourbon was doing, especially with that Dovetail release that they did. Now, for me, I really enjoyed it. I like a lot of these different things that they're doing with the finishing aspect. So I think that's going to be one of the things that kind of continues to be introduced to the market, is a lot of different finishing aspects on whiskeys.
Oh, with Barrel, it's all about the blending.
Yeah. There's blend. I mean, blending's probably going to be really big because you got to think about it. A lot of these places can't produce whiskey that's good. You know what? I mean, as many of these craft distilleries that come out and try to put out young whiskey, a lot of it just isn't good. It's just not ready. It needs time. So the only thing they can do to put out a product is source it and to make it their own, either blend it or finish it. So it's really their only options to make something that's kind of unique and their own, without just sourcing it, bottling it, and sending it out to people. So I think we're going to see a ton more, finished whiskeys and blended whiskeys coming on the market here, because it's the only option to make anything unique when you can't produce your own whiskey yet.
So what about, like, if that's what you have to do to make it your own and unique, but at the same time, I mean, there's some distilleries out there that's all they do is they source stuff. They might blend it and they put it out there, and people go crazy for it. Whether it's High West or Barrel or
Joseph Magnus came up a little bit ago in the chat.
Yep. Yeah, Joseph Magnus is a good call. Yeah. But I mean, I think there's a difference between, I see kind of two avenues with where whiskey is going. I think you're gonna have the crazy. Well, I think for us, for bourbon whiskey enthusiasts, guys that really love enjoying the stuff, I think the most interesting thing, at least for me, and you guys can chime in here, is as Bobby mentioned, different types of yeast strains and also different types of ingredients. Jeff the Creed is making a bourbon with bloody butcher corn, which I'm really interested in trying that down in Kentucky. Obviously, store picks is something I think whiskey enthusiasts and something that we covet and we go look for. But I think on the other side, the secondary side, and the guys that just want to go out there and own bottles, I think you're going to see a lot of funky special releases, real kind of gimmicky stuff. Like, this was aged for a half a year on the moon, on the space station. You need to own this, and just
Jefferson Ocean.
I just think you're going to see some really crazy gimmicky stuff coming, especially in the next couple of years.
That's a conspiracy theory. The moon.
Yeah, they had backlot in Manhattan.
Yeah, I'm gonna need you to calm down with conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see tons of gimmicks coming. Gimmicks are on the way. I mean, people are trying anything they can to be original and stand out, to get their their whiskey heard or get it in the news and get that PR for it. So I think we're going to see some strange and weird things happening.
Yeah, and I've had recently some different mash bills. I've had some that are really low corn, high rye. Some that are low corn, high malted barley. So there's a lot of these companies out there now that are really trying to push the envelope and, maybe, grasp onto something that's, unique and different and see if it kind of, sticks. But, I mean, I kind of enjoy that part of it, watching a lot of these, whether it's craft or whoever, do some of these different types of things to maybe kind of push the envelope a little bit. So,
but there's no substitute for just a really well made like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Booker's is $70 average or so now, and usually readily available in any decent grocery store or not liquor store. You know what I mean?
Grocery stores here in Louisiana. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you guys are lucky. We're in Tennessee, and there's none of that. In Arizona, we used to have drive-through liquor stores, and that was awesome. So
we used to have our drive-through daiquiri shops.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not even drive-through like, hey, I need a bottle of Jack. It's the drive-through like, hey, I want a margarita. I was
gonna say, has anyone figured out how to do a drive-through margarita stand? That'd probably make $1 million.
Arizona and I guess Louisiana, you could do that. Of course, Louisiana doesn't surprise me. My wife's whole family's from New Orleans, and they're just on another level down there.
Moose 76 in the chat said Illuminati whiskey.
Yeah,
so, I mean, like here's a finished bourbon that everyone goes crazy for.
Yeah,
that's a great example of blending.
Yeah, right.
But I mean, High West has been doing it a while. I mean, I think High West puts out some fantastic stuff. You know what I mean? They do it just different enough to make themselves separated, but not. It's a lot of their stuff isn't so crazy that it's not the the Jack Spur corn with the malted quinoa on on, like Jason said, on the space shuttle.
How much of the mass market is buying that stuff? I mean, that seems very specialty or very, very geared towards whiskey enthusiasts.
So would you say, would that be like, if you took it into 3 levels, you have your beginning people that they're just kind of starting to, blossom and find different stuff. And then you have your enthusiasts that are, they're out there, they're looking for different stuff. They're looking to try different stuff, then maybe they're into store picks and stuff by now. And then there's the crazy people, which I guess we could probably be labeled as, you know what I mean? Like we've been there and we're done. We've passed that. Or, do you guys think that, like you want to try the space, the International Space Station single malt American bourbon?
I can't wait for that one. I'm going to patent that one as soon as we get off the stream.
He's writing a letter to High West right now. I saw it on his screen.
Well, what does everybody think? I'll tell you, I don't think there's any substitute for time. All these experiments are going on out there. People are trying to age whiskey quicker.
Yep.
I don't think you can substitute time. A good 12 years in a barrel is 12 years. You can't quicken it. You can't make it faster.
Yep, and I totally agree with that, Scott, because that's the essence of what good whiskey is. It's give it the time, let it sit in the barrel, let nature do its thing, and let it age, and then you can eventually pour glass. I think, listen, as they mentioned, I forgot who said it, but a lot of these different distillers that are going to make, they're going to do their gimmicks. They're going to try to sell some whiskey while their real stuff is aging, and I get that, but you go in, and even if I'm just looking at the shelf, even now when I go into a liquor store and I'm running out of kind of my favorite drams, it's always something that I know I'm going to get a good quality out of. I'm never just going in there to pick up a gimmick.
Yeah, and and I guess touching on that, I think that's a good transition from something that was really hyped up and they sold a lot of it. A good example would be New Riff. I mean, they had their OKI line that they did really, really well with. And then I think people were a little bit skeptical. How are they gonna, release their own, line, and how good is it gonna be? But I'll tell you what, for what they're producing so far, I think they've kind of hit that, out of the park. I think they're really doing a lot of really good things with their whiskeys. So. And
to New Riff's credit too, I mean, look at their price point. I mean, I think their whiskey goes for like $39, which is reasonable for a bottled in bond product. And it tastes fantastic for a 4-year-old. So they're doing great stuff. And I think they also did a great job, in the fact that they had their OKA line, which they knew they were going to source, and they changed. They didn't try to market their new whiskey like it was the same whiskey. They changed. They said, look, we're shifting gears here. This is ours. We're changing the branding. Here's what you get. And it was all up front and honest. And I think that's all we can really ask of these guys is, get rid of the gimmicks, make good whiskey, and tell us what we're getting and charge us appropriately. You know, I think
I agree with that completely. You know what I mean? Like you said, like they didn't try and like, you know, blend their stuff in for a little bit and do like a transition period or anything. Like, look, this is the stuff we were sourcing. This is the label on it. This is, you know, a completely new bottle, new label, new everything. This is our new product. And, you know, like you said, they didn't try and hide anything, and it's a good product at a good price.
Don't you need a backstory? Everyone needs a backstory, right?
Yeah, you know, with I guess with that being said, you know, even with like a backstory that's relatively limited, I mean, I think a lot of us now who are educated, you know, in the whiskey, you know, community, a lot of us don't want any of the kind of fake story BS part of it. We just want ultimately good whiskey, and I think even people being introduced to, you know, whiskey, that's really what's going to sell them. I mean, an old person's name on a bottle, you know, isn't any good if the juice inside the bottle is ultimately no good. So, you know, I agree with that. I mean, the bottom line is just give us good whiskey at a good price, and everybody will be fine.
You know, and that's totally it. You know what I mean? Like today, people have so much information at their hands with the internet and everything else. And, you know, the six of us sitting here, I mean, that's exactly what we do is, you know what I mean? We go out and we spend our money and we try, you know, we try stuff and we tell people how it is. And you know what I mean? Either it's good or it's not. And it's,
yeah, that's,
you know what I mean? They don't have to spend their money to be like, oh, that should wait another 2 years, and I'll give it another 2 years, and then I'll buy a bottle.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about some of the whiskey. They're not selling good whiskey. They're just selling a story on top of it or reviving an old label. This has come up a lot. You know, just taking, you know, an old label that was defunct or gone after Prohibition, reviving it, repackaging it, saying that this is it's coming back, and everyone goes crazy and has to have the first bottle. So yeah.
I mean, I think Jefferson's is a good example too, where Jefferson's is not an old brand, but they've, you know, made a brand with an old name that everybody recognizes and put a revolutionary looking turd on the front of the bottle and you know, trying to sell the story like it's some old whiskey.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, we touched on it earlier. We talked about Kentucky Owl, even Cream of Kentucky that came back after a defunct label. You know, so there's Peerless. There's another. And it seems like all these new labels that come back, they're charging not only for the whiskey, but a premium for the historic part of the label, which is kind of interesting. You know, I think it hurts the consumer mostly, but I mean, some of it is great whiskey, but you know, I think to charge that much for, you know, revival of a label can be, I think it's just pushing the envelope a little bit, but people buy it. So, you know, I can't fault them for pricing it that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you know, I'm a capitalist, and do I agree that you should source, you know, you should sell your 4-year-old bourbon that is, you know, 92 proof at $150? No, I don't think that it's worth it. But I mean, if you can sell it and you're selling out of it, then who am I to tell you you're wrong? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of the balance. I guess a cool question for everyone is what's kind of your, I don't know, what's kind of your limit between a high price or something that, I guess, what kind of, if there's a new release coming out, what makes that bottle something you have to have? Is it the name? Is it the brand? Is it something you trust? Or is it something you just have to have because it's kind of that fear of missing out effect? What's the characteristic of a new release that makes
FOMO?
Yeah, is it FOMO? Is that all it is?
Fear of missing out. I mean, that's
I don't even know. I don't even know if it's that. I mean, I think a lot of us have brands that we enjoy, and if there's something like, for instance, like the Four Roses, like their 30th. I mean, I think there's people who have, you know, an affinity for, you know, Four Roses, where they have to have that. You know, whether it's going to be good or not, you know, or Buffalo Trace, whatever it may be, whatever it is that you enjoy. People will want to have that bottle no matter, you know, what it is. So,
yeah, I agree. I think people really want to stick to the brands they know and love. And so they're willing to pay more for a release that they're pretty sure they're going to like because they know they like the flavor profiles of that brand. What I find more difficult is, though, these newer brands that are coming out. I mean, Kentucky Owl is a good example, or no offense to anybody, it's got 3 of the bottles sitting behind them, but like Old Carter, which is very expensive whiskey, that up until this point no one had tried, and it's super pricey, super hard to get. Is it worth it? I mean, obviously they're sourced like a lot of these brands are, but is it worth these price tags? I mean, it's a very steep price tag, and you've never tried their whiskey before, most likely. So is that worth it? It makes it tough.
Yeah, it is. Price point is a killer, and it is. I don't know, what that is for most people, but it seems like, when you start to get above, $100, things start to change. Below that, you can kind of stomach something, but when you start getting into that 100+ range, that's when things really start to change. At least for me anyway. So,
for me, like under $50, and I'll try just about anything out there. If it's in that $50 to $100 price range, I'm a little skeptical. 100, 150, you're pushing it over 150. It better be the best thing out there on the market, and you know what I mean? Like, they better have the name, it better have the reputation, it better have all that stuff. If I'm going to spend $150 or more on a whiskey, it's got to be, you know what I mean, the best out there. So,
yeah. Now I'll look at some of the allocated bottles and stuff that show up. Say retail's 100. I'm willing to pay, maybe 125, 130, maybe 150 at top end, depending on what it is. Pappy Van Winkle 12 Lot B. I got offered a bottle last year for $150, and I turned it down because I'm like, it's a 12-year weeded bourbon. It's good, but even at 150, no. And is secondary much higher? Sure, but that's not. I mean, I'm not there for the secondary. So
right. I mean, like some of that stuff. Like if I could get a George C. Stagg or a William LaRue Well or anything like that at 2x retail. Sure. Anything above that, and I'm out. I mean, it's just not. There's so much other stuff out there that's worth
exactly,
quote unquote, worth more to me than that is. You know,
even that stuff. I mean, for me, it's at retail or slightly above retail. 2 times retail, no. Sorry.
Yeah. Now this year's Stagg, I did go 150 for this year's Stagg, which is I mean that's pushing it for me. So
yeah.
Or sorry, next month. March 26th, we're going to be on Scott and Bart's my bourbon journey. We're going to be on Scott and Bart's Scotch Test Dummies channel, March 26th. So you guys mark your calendars. We're all going to try and be there again.
We're gonna change our name. It'll be My Blind Whiskey Bourbon Dummy. With a drum.
If any of you guys out there haven't subscribed to any one of these guys, go ahead and do that. All of them are amazing guys. They're putting out top-notch content. So cheers, guys. We appreciate you all being here.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, everyone. Here's to another round.
Another round. We're getting about that 1 hour mark. Do you guys want to go back around and give everyone your channels and where they can find you, Instagram, Facebook, whatever the case may be?
Sure. I'll start. Scotch Test Dummies. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Twitter, Real Scotch or Scotch Test Dummy, and on Instagram, Real Scotch Test Dummies.
Other Scott?
Yeah. So you can find me basically same platforms, YouTube channel, My Bourbon Journey. Same thing with Instagram, Twitter, basically the same thing. Facebook, if you want to go there as well, you can find me there. Yeah, so thanks, Kyle, for putting this all together. Had a great time. Thanks, guys.
John, what about you?
Hey, everybody. Yeah, I'm John. Blind Whiskey Reviews. A couple blind reviews out usually every week here, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at blind_reviews.
Jason.
You can find me at Mash and Drum on YouTube. You can also find me at the Mash and Drum on Instagram and on Twitter at Mash and D. We do two reviews a week, including a live stream on Wednesday. Tomorrow night, I'm having David Jennings from Rare Bird 101 on. Going to be drinking some really amazing turkey, some wild turkey, talking about some special bottles that are out there right now.
Very nice.
Yeah, definitely hang out and yeah, come find me and subscribe. Thanks, guys. Thanks again, Kyle, for putting this together, for everyone's being so flexible. This was a fun time.
And Bobby.
Hey guys, you can find me at adventuresinwhiskey.com. I'm usually posting there a lot. On YouTube, Adventures in Whiskey, Instagram, Facebook, same thing. Twitter, I actually go by my name, Bobby Childs. Thanks to all you guys for such a fun, great night. Cheers to you.
Yeah, cheers to all you guys. I mean, I appreciate y'all coming on. For everyone in the chat, a lot of people are saying we should keep going. We'll maybe do like after air that I'll cut off. I'll re-download it and re-upload it at an hour, and then everyone that's in the chat will maybe get a little extra if you guys are up for it.